Welcome to
The Shift
with Barry Baumgartner.
and Blue Melnick.
There you go.
Do you think that each of us in the future, when in episode 2, should we say the other person's name?
Or like I would introduce you.
Like, hey, welcome, Barry Baumgartner.
And Blue Melnick.
Like that. All right. Well, either
we'll
way.
Practice that. We'll get this down by the second or at least fifth podcast.
We'll give that a try. So why don't we start by...
why do we do this?
Why are we doing
a
this?
Limited Run podcast?
Well, so you and I have been talking a lot over the course of the last couple of months, at least, about AI and the impact that AI is having on the online education space, specifically with coaches and consultants. It is. But I think there's something specific that's happening. You and I think there's something specific happening that people aren't talking about. Generally speaking, we're all talking about, I can make cool videos, or maybe I can lose the double chin or something like that with...
Oh, like I could erase the double chin with AI.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of conversation around that.
Me. How do I use it? How do I use it?
Exactly. But the thing that not very many people are talking about is, how do I point AI towards our students, right? How do I point it towards the people who are in our coaching programs, the people who are engaging with us online, who buy our courses, things like that?
It's like part of the shift in our mind is, how do you go from using AI to make you more efficient, faster, better, to making your student more efficient, faster, better? Like, I think that's a big shift, but like, what necessitates the shift?
Well, we should talk about where this all came from. So this shift in education, this online shift in education, you and I were actually intimately a part of the most recent shift that took place in online education.
Indeed. So it took a pandemic to create our first shift, and it took like a tech revolution to create our second. I think that's fair.
I mean, both are worldwide things that are taking place, right? The AI revolution
happening
is
to you
or
happening
for
you.
Yeah, the AI revolution is real. So the shift.
I was just gonna say, I kind of posed that like a question, but I think could feel like it's happening to you, but I think with the right approach, it's happening for you.
Why don't we take 10 seconds, because people watching this may not all know what you and I were involved with when that shift happened.
Yeah.
So during COVID,
roll back time.
Yeah, roll back 6.5 years,
March
right?
2020.
About 6.5 years, March 2020, and COVID happens, and we are at that point in the in-person event space. That's where we live.
Yes.
And
one event a week.
One event a week. Yeah, you were on the road. You and I were on the road 35 to 40 weeks a year.
Yeah. Legit.
And what wound up happening is our business ground to a halt.
In 1 week.
Yes.
That's not fun.
No, it's not even a little fun.
Yeah.
Empty
on
flight.
An empty flight from an empty airport. And we're like, okay, now it's a thing.
We walked through the Atlanta airport and the halls were empty. And if you've ever walked through the Atlanta airport, that never happens.
Never. Even in the middle of the night. No. Yeah, that was eerie. That was eerie.
It was very, and it was, definitely a signal of things to come.
Because every event canceled.
Yeah.
Every event in the next week to 2 weeks.
And what we chose to do in that moment, we had a couple of choices. Like everybody in the event space, we had 2 choices to make. And so the 2 choices we had were, do we furlough our team like most people in the event space were doing, which is just a fancy way of saying, do we lay off our team?
Yeah.
Or do we try something different? And you and I decided to try something different.
And this is where your tech forward abilities come into play.
Perhaps.
I would never have thought of this on my own. Like this, I would have eventually just, if you had not been part of my life, if I'd had to deal with this alone, I think I know I would have been like, I have to retreat and I'm going to figure out consulting. I'm going to figure out how to just be a consultant until this thing passes over. But you had this huge epiphany.
Well, and the epiphany was, I wonder if we could do this online.
Yeah.
And we had tried live streaming in the past, but I was like, what if we could do this through Zoom? Right. And what if we could and do it at scale, like where we have hundreds, if not thousands of people on Zoom together
to try one room connected to one TV, 10 TVs, 10 rooms. And just do the math. You could have an event.
Yeah, exactly. We could do 10,000 people. It's going to be a piece of cake.
It'd be awesome.
So, we were very much at the forefront. Like our first virtual event was like
First week of April.
3 weeks after
Yeah.
the country shut
Thank
down.
you, Dylan Frost. I
Yeah.
always like to give him a shout out. He was
Totally.
our client who said yes to testing this wild, crazy idea with us.
And I share that, we share that because that's a shift that was forced upon us
Yeah.
with no notice.
Yeah.
The good news for, I think, coaches and consultants today is, and people in the online education space, is there is now a shift taking place.
And there's notice.
A little bit.
I think so. I mean, listen, would you call this 2 years in? We're in an age where maybe we could use AI to make this better.
Well, and to be fair, this is a conversation that Barry and I were having like a year and a half ago.
I remember how it came up for me is all of our clients are using AI to make themselves faster, simpler, and easier. And they start coming to our private coaching calls and being like, look what my AI did, and like hurling it at you. And it would be like these
It was
long
horrible.
things you had to go
horrible.
through. And most of it was not good.
So what wound up happening is there were a couple of people in our space that I saw build some really bespoke AI tools.
Who was the first?
The first one that I saw was Jeff Walker.
Yeah, that's right. Lunchy.
Launchy, yeah. Jeff Walker
Love
produced
Jeff Walker. Shout out to Jeff Walker.
100% OG.
The OG.
And Jeff, as part of his launch club / product launch formula world, created this AI tool like a year and a half, 2 years ago, where people could go in and answer a few questions and get an output. Like, here's an idea for PLC1, which is one of Jeff's things.
Yeah.
Or, then you take that output and you copy it and you go to something else and it writes you the email sequence for PLC1.
And I think that's like an attempt at being unreasonably helpful, right? Like we could use AI.
Yeah, this was totally, this was definitely a starting point. And that is what for me got me thinking, okay, I don't need to do this for me, but what if we could, because one of the things I liked about what Jeff did is that tool was using his IP, his intellectual property, his thought process around email marketing, around product launches, to create output that was at a much, much higher level than what you get when you just log into ChatGPT.
And more than Jeff could do on his own, because one of his non-negotiables is I'm not going to personally do it for you. I'm not your personal coach.
Exactly.
So how do you make that leap from bespoke to scale and still have the bespoke experience at a scaled environment, which therein lies the question. But we've been struggling with that as an industry forever. But now
there's AI. So
I think we have a solution.
So I took a look at that. We have a development team that helps us with Obvio, which is a virtual event platform that we use in our business to help run virtual events. And
best virtual events.
I pulled off one of the development team members to do this kind of like Skunkworks project, right?
For
and I
those
was like,
of us who don't watch Tech Nerdcast, what is Skunkworks?
It's like the entire company is rowing in one direction, focused on one thing, but you have this small pocket of other people focused on this other little thing that may become important at some point in the future.
Why do you think they call it Skunkworks?
I don't know. Probably because the room that they're in smells. It was developer Tyler.
Okay, so developer Tyler, you're like, secret project, Skunkworks.
Exactly. I was like, Tyler, I have an idea, right? And it's not an entirely original idea.
Do you tell him not to tell the other developers?
No, I didn't.
Like, it's just between us.
I told the other developers, hey, don't bug Tyler for at least a couple of weeks because Blue's working on something. So I grabbed Tyler and I said, hey, this is what Jeff's done inside of his coaching program. And at that point, I'd seen a couple of others. There were a couple of other people who'd done something similar. And the thing there was something I didn't like about how that thing worked, which was for every output you got, right? This PLC1, that example that I gave you, to write emails for PLC1, you had to like copy and paste the output from one thing and put it into another. Yeah. And the other thing I didn't really like about it is because I had access to the platform because we were in Jeff's mastermind. The other thing I didn't love about it is it allowed you to kind of pick your own path as the user. And you and I have a pretty strong opinion that things need to be done in a certain order.
We talk about there being a super specific order. It's
Mhm.
like you decide who your right fit client is. Some people call that avatar or ideal client, right? So who's your ICP? Then what do they most need? And then what do you know that could help close the gap on that? That becomes your method. Your method infuses your offer. Your content for your virtual live event is designed around your offer. So it naturally leads to it. And then your messaging is designed around your content. So if they love your messaging, they're predisposed to love your content, which means they're predisposed to, yes, love your offer, right? That's through line. Most people do it in reverse. So we stand for that order.
100%.
So if we were going to design something, it was going to have like a rigid order to it.
Exactly.
And you didn't like
So,
that Jeff's didn't have a rigid order.
well,
Although he might have liked the pick your adventure thing.
he might
Not
have.
necessarily
This
a
is
negative.
this
It's
is
not how
not a
we
knock,
would do
this
it.
is not a knock against
I just
Jeff's
wanted to be
product.
clear about that.
100%.
Yeah.
I still think Jeff's product is awesome.
Amazing.
The thing that this is for was for us and our students. We wanted them to do it in a specific order.
Definitely.
And I wanted their life to be a little bit easier than
Unreasonably helpful.
exactly. So I started talking with Tyler and I said, listen, I want people to go in and I want them to go through a specific process first where we ask them a series of questions and then the AI outputs an answer based on Barry and I's IP. And then we'll go to the next step. And one thing that I think is really important is that we don't ask the same question over and over again, right? Like, who's your right fit client every single time you go to do an output? We
Yeah,
already
that'd be
know
so
that
frustrating.
in the platform.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things.
But that like it would remember.
Exactly.
And then
Exactly.
you could build off of that. So
Totally.
you enter it in
And
once,
today,
it
memory
remembers,
is
and you
not
build
a
off
new
of that.
concept, right? Like today, memory in ChatGPT
Yeah,
or
because I would
Claude.
say the average person out there might be like, doesn't AI already do that?
Yeah, it does today to a certain extent, although it's not great. But we're talking about a year and a half ago when we
Right.
started doing this, and at which point, like you could have
It felt novel.
you could literally have two chats with ChatGPT or Claude, and they would not have any idea of the other chat.
Right.
So
Muscle memory, no
that
muscle
was
memory.
that was thing number one. The other thing, as we were building this, we were testing prompts, right? Like you would give me an idea, we would collaborate with Michelle,
Like an idea would be like, hey, do you think AI could help our leapers do this?
right?
And then Michelle, who's like our AI architect.
She would help us with the prompt,
Yeah.
and then we would show you the output, and then you'd be like, "That's not quite right." So we'd go back, we'd rejig the prompt, which would require a reset of the application. And one of the things that we were like, okay, this is a no, we can't do this,
Super time consuming.
is we absolutely need to not have our developers in the way when it comes to prompt engineering.
And when you say, just to clarify again, for those of us that are not super techie, maybe we're not out there vibe coding. I'm not a vibe coder. I don't do that. So I hear now you just talk to it. I don't do that either, actually. But we didn't want the developers in the way because specifically,
Yes.
you would have to go back and forth, back and forth.
And that process, even if you have a great developer and it's a small change, usually takes a half a day to a day.
Yeah.
So I said to Tyler, I says, we need to be able to make simple tweaks. So he builds out this small interface behind the scenes that allows me to log in, make a little change to the prompt, and instantly see the result.
You also wanted to design it so anybody could go in and do it.
What we wound up doing is creating this tool that our Leap members could log into, and it would ask them a series of questions that you helped define.
Yeah.
And it would provide them with the response. And we used it as a teaching tool within the platform, right? Because one of the things that we find often, and you kind of mentioned this at the beginning, is that, people will come into your program, they'll learn a lot of great stuff, but then they don't do the thing in the end.
Get stuck in the implementation phase.
Exactly. And what this application that we built, our Leap members helped them do, was actually get things done, right? Actually figure out who their right fit client is and create a profile for who they were so that they could learn how to talk to them.
So we could teach what is a right fit client? And
Mhm.
then we would actually have them do something that designed their right fit client profile,
Exactly.
like in the moment done.
You got it.
Unreasonably helpful.
Yes.
I do think that's part of this. I'm just going to say, like, if you think of the last 5, 6 years, what we've been asked to kind of absorb as a human race, and certainly as an industry, is like, total shutdown, rethinking how you deliver information, education.
Yeah.
There's media craziness, like what's true, what do you believe, who do you listen to, the shift from traditional media to podcasts. Like, so we've had that, then we've had crazy election stuff. Like, there's just been like this whole world tumultuous thing.
Mhm.
And then you have AI. So
Yeah.
it's a lot to absorb for us. But where I was headed with this for our students too. Like, if it's hard for us, imagine what it is to be a student trying to learn, apply, and do. It's a
Totally.
lot.
Now, what's happened over the course of the last year or so, especially the narrative in the coaching industry, the narrative in the online consulting and online education space is courses are dead, right? Why are people going to need us? And I mean, listen, not to give you too big of a hint of what's episode 2, but um the reality is this is not the first time this has happened. That
That
people
people have
that
thought
people have
courses are dead.
that people have declared a form of education
Yeah.
dead.
I remember when they were like live events are dead. And that
Yeah.
was before COVID, like live events are dead.
Well,
And then after COVID,
it's
virtual events are
actually
dead. There's a lot of
not
things that are always dying around this industry. Like
it's
it's dead,
actually
it's going to die.
it's interesting that you say that because the shift, which is what we named this podcast, is about the shift from not using AI in your business to promote your students, to help your students get results, to actually using AI in your business to help your students get results. The thing that you and I did in 2020 by moving fast, right, and shifting quickly, doing our first virtual event in 3 weeks,
Yeah.
that allowed us as a live event company to 7x our net profit in 2020 during a pandemic when most event companies were struggling to stay in business. So the thing that I want you to think about is that if you are an early adopter and you move quickly, you have an opportunity to get latched on by the train and go with it rather than just get smashed by it or be chasing it, right? Like if the train passes you by and all of your peers in your industry have already adopted AI in their business, now you're just running from behind trying to catch up.
Yeah. Well, and listen, the other reality is that your students find people who are able to do this, right? It's just, like there are your competitors are out there and they're making
Totally.
it faster, simpler, easier. They are unreasonably helpful and you're not. And they're going to go where it's easier. I mean, our students are looking for things to be less overwhelming and easier. And I think the average person loves learning. Like, generally, our students pay for learning. I know sometimes it even gets in their way. It's like just they love learning more than they love implementing.
Mhm.
But if we're being really fair to them, one of the challenges is it's one thing to learn something theoretically, it's something else to go do it. And it's that implementation piece where you think you have it until you go to do it. And then it's not effective. It's not working.
Yeah.
And what I was going to say earlier is I just think the scale piece is critical because we want to continue to be profitable. We want to continue to be in business and we want to continue to be profitable. But I think most people really want to continue to serve too. Like we want to find a way to meet our students where they are. And if you could harness something that allows you to be unreasonably helpful, like truly unreasonably helpful,
Mhm.
and meet them where they are in their moment of need and get something done for them and with them at scale,
Mhm.
like that is where I got excited about AI. I have to, I mean, I am the late adopter. I don't use AI every single day. You use it in everything you do. A lot of our clients do. I still like to use my big, beautiful brain. And I use my brain before I'll turn to AI. I'm still that way right now. But where I got really excited is like, wow, when we started to unleash what you were doing with Master Skunk with Tyler,
Master skunk.
the Skunk
Yeah.
Master. We started to release it, and watching our students get so excited was crazy. Like they would just
Uh,
something that would have taken forever. All of a sudden, they got it done. It was incredible.
with that, I
With
think that
that,
kind of brings us to the end of episode 1.
yeah, origin story.
Origin story, right? In the next episode, we're going to talk a little bit about how this isn't the first time this has happened and how we can learn from history to be prepared for the shift that's taking place right now that clearly we see coming towards us. So, we're thinking this is going to be once a week, at least for the next 6 weeks. Hopefully you'll join us. If you liked it, I guess subscribe. I don't know where you're watching this, but subscribe for sure. Like it, leave us a comment.
We read
If
everyone.
you have any questions, yeah, we do read everyone.
We do.
If you have any questions, go ahead and post them. And yeah,
And I think the final thought is the shift happening not to you, but for you. Like if you're out there and you're on the fence about AI or worried that it's going to put you out of business, I think the shift is there's actually something really amazing heading your way that can completely change how you show up and how you serve.
absolutely.